A real problem that we have with this particular issue that is not so much the case with, say, I don't know, abortion or gun rights or some of the other issues that we like to talk about, is it's hard to talk about. It's not too hard to understand the Second Amendment and the issues involving abortion. Finance and money is pretty complex. I mean, at root, it's actually quite simple. The principles are simple, but the language deployed by bankers and financiers and economists is so deliberately, complex and confusing that people are scared away. Yeah.
I mean, like you talk about fractional reserve. It's like I had to read an entire book to realize what that means.
Yeah.
And I think I do more reading than the average person. So.
Well, and they can't just say, for example, creating more money or pumping more money into the supply. They call it injecting liquidity. That's literally the term they use.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, people look at that and they're immediately taken aback. Well, that sounds like really technical stuff, kind of like, mathematical physics. There's no way I can understand that without, lots of years in graduate school and a PhD and all this type of thing. And that's not really true. Unlike mathematical physics and some of the more abstruse sciences, it is possible for the layman to develop a very sound understanding of money and banking and the principles of economics. What's happened is that the economists themselves, at least those who are in the pay of the state, in the tradition of John Maynard Keynes and many others, have created this unnecessarily complex vocabulary with the express purpose of excluding the unwashed masses from their arcana, because they know, as Keynes once admitted, these are very, very few people really understand what inflation is. If they did understand, they would be very upset. And this is true of so many things that appertain to economics and banking. Is people would be, the pitchforks and torches would be out in a hurry if people understood what was being said. But as George Orwell observed a long time ago, political language is always inherently deceptive.
Right.
Because where politics and its handmaiden economics are concerned, you don't want to tell the truth lest the people actually figure out. So you have to be able to first wade through all the verbiage and be able to separate fact from fiction. And to do that, you have to find the right people. You have to know about, a Murray Rothbard or Ludwig von Mises or somebody, people who are actually willing to tell the truth. As opposed to trying to read, I defy anyone listening to the show to try to read Keynes.
Well, that's the reason we do this show, and we do so many other episodes and we spend 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes I get grief for that, believe it or not. That we spend an hour to 45 minutes to try to explain something that, people have spent years writing and trying to explain. We have an entire populace who doesn't grasp this, and the price of that is so heavy that to spend 45 minutes to an hour, I would think you would just lap it up. Right, be like, oh my God! You mean I can? So you mentioned Rothbard and Luke. Did you mention Mises?
Von Mises, yes.
Von Mises, and whatnot. So maybe if you can't read, you don't have time to read them and whatnot. You got to at least watch this episode, right? And get some idea. And that's why we also create these action projects. I know, we're out there, we're peddling, we're hawking JBS, but this is the reason why we do what we do, is it not? Is it not to create understanding?
But here's the thing too: you don't need to read The Theory of Money and Credit or Man, Economy, and State, although I strongly recommend them if you have the time and the inclination to do so. But if you don't, people instinctively, if they don't listen to all of the nonsense, all the verbiage, all the persiflage that's always being emitted by the politicians and their myrmidons in the media and in academia and the economists and all that crowd. Common sense usually is correct. Now, something that our parents all told us when we were little children was, hey, what do you think? Money doesn't grow on trees. Don't you know that? Money doesn't grow on trees. The basic premise of fiat money is
it's even easier than
that actually money does grow on trees, right? All you have to do is print it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, there was a popular book called Jason and the Money Tree that I read as a boy. And it's about a boy who actually gets a little tree that instead of producing leaves produces dollar bills. And so for a while, he becomes very, very rich. I forget how it ends. But Jason and the Money Tree was a not so subtle attempt by some children's writer a long time ago to point up this very simple truth is, money doesn't grow on trees. There's something else involved. That's very simple and commonsensical. And you don't need to know about injecting liquidity or what open market operations are. Any of this other stuff, that's what it boils down to.
Yes.
That's an eternal truth.
Right.
It's one of those copybook headings that Kipling wrote about a long time ago. And if we just had a return to common sense to start with, we wouldn't need to have PhDs in Austrian economics to understand that.